Good evening, Deepan. Good evening, Deepan.
Karthik?
Deepan, you will have to unmute your mic and talk.
Yeah, okay. Are you copying me now?
Yes, Deepan.
Absolutely. 5-9.
Good evening, Madhukur.
Good evening, good evening. Deepan, you will have to unmute your mic and talk.
What is this echo, Madhu?
Somebody else is on a dual system where audio from the other thing is fading back.
Sir. Sir.
Srinivas, you can unmute, you can mute your video
Okay.
so that we can save on the bandwidth.
ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಸರ್ ಕೋಸ್ಟ್ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ ಮೇ ಕೋಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಾ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಇವಾಗ ನೋಡಿ ಸರ್ ಅಂತ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಸರ್ ಯೂಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾಕೆ ಮಾತಾಡೋದು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇವ್ರು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಿರೋದು ಸರ್ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಝೂಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಅದು ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಸರ್
Madhukur, can you ask everyone to mute their audio because a lot of noise comes through?
Yes, we'll be Karthik, mute all mics who are not co-hosts.
Can we start?
Madhukur, can you ask everyone to mute their audio because a lot of noise comes through?
Yes, we'll be Karthik, mute all mics who are not co-hosts.
Okay, sir. I think you have the YouTube stream on the background. It's feeding back audio.
Madhu, can we start? Sarah?
Yeah, Shankar, please go ahead.
Okay. Very good afternoon to all of you and a warm welcome to this 100 years of amateur radio in India being commemorated by the Hamfest India 2021 organizing committee. Delighted to have you all here at this event. I'm Shankar Prasad, Victor United to Sierra Papa Kilo. My QTH is Mysuru, Mike Yankee Sierra Oscar Romeo Echo. We had excellent rains yesterday, excellent session yesterday, pretty sultry now, almost about 89 to 90% humid and about 26 degrees Charlie in the city here. So I'm sure all of you had a great learning and being part of yesterday's event. And today we are continuing. And I'm delighted to welcome my co-hosts for this session. VU2 Echo Tango Sierra, Sarvanan, VU2 Mike Uniform Delta, Madhu, VU2 Sierra, Mike X-Ray, Ramaswamy Venkatraman, and Surya, Victor United 3, Foxtrot November Whiskey, and VU2 Mike Tango Kilo, Old Man Kesri. I'm sure even today's session will be enlightening. Quite a lot of discussions, I'm sure, will happen as we move forward. Just to tell you the day's program. Now we are starting with the roundtable of repeater custodians of India. This is an open house, a sort of a discussion to see how, and if possible, why, and how and why that we should be connecting all the repeaters, at least to start with a few repeaters across and see how things would go, and maybe expand it pan-India. Today, we have the technology. Repeaters are of a later model. We have a digital backups, and all that makes it all the more interesting to have the interconnection of repeaters. Moving forward at 1700 hours, we have an amazing session. We have two people, Delta Lima 2, Mike Alpha November Manuel, and Papa Echo 1 November Zulu Gidio. So both of them have been at the forefront of developing the micro SDX. They are the pioneers, just like how we had whatever it says, software defined transceivers, SDT as he called it. Jack and Alan called it. These people are pioneers. They have put in so much of effort writing the code and connecting the hardware to it. So they have literally come up with a three-tier architecture: the middleware, the software, and of course the hardware connected with it. So that will be the next session. Moving forward, we have a small session of 15 minutes on disaster management by one of our friends from Delhi, who have been pretty active in that field and who have worked with the government of India. And then we will have the closing sessions. So that's about it, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks very much once again. You're the most welcome. So I leave the stage to Saravanan. We have to Echo Tango Sierra, so who will initiate the roundtable on repeater custodians. I'm sure the custodians are here. So I'll formally welcome you all for this first session. Saravanan, can we start?
Yeah, thank you, Shankar. Good evening to all my ham friends, all the custodians of the repeaters from various locations. I am VU2 Echo Tango Sierra. Handle is Sarau, Sierra Alpha Romeo Alpha Victor, and QTH is Mysuru. I am the custodian for the repeater, VU2 Tango Romeo Echo in Mysuru.
You can enable your camera, Sarau.
Yeah, okay, fine. Is that okay?
Yeah.
And am I audible?
Absolutely, 5.9 plus.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Thank you. So going forward, just like Shankar said, the discussion to find out various ways of linking repeaters across various geographical locations. I was just surfing the net, and sometime back, long time back, in fact, I did come across a link called IRLP, the Internet Radio Linking Project, which is the brainchild of Dave Cameron, Victor Echo 7 Lima Tango Delta. A good initiative by him, and quite different from the Echolink which we have and is being used widely by many today. The IRLP is purely radio-to-radio communication, which makes it all the more interesting as a ham. The big difference between the Echolink and IRLP is this: unlike the Echolink, which uses a software and a web user interface to utilize the connected repeaters, the IRLP interface is a purely radio-to-radio communication. The IRLP is a state-of-the-art technology concept that links VHF and UHF equipment together via internet using the widely used and known VoIP protocol. The IRLP basically allows you to have a conversation with another ham or other hams around the globe by either connecting a local IRLP equipped repeater or a simplex base station at various locations. This IRLP is similar to the wires, which is the wide coverage internet repeater enhancement system, which is a proprietary thing from Yasu. They use a similar technology to what IRLP is using. They also follow the same DTMF signaling, and since they use a non-proprietary signaling system, compatibility of radios is very, very wide. With various manufacturers, radios can be used for this particular case. The wires system from Yasu uses the amateur radio repeaters over VoIP, allowing home stations using those repeaters to communicate with each other via VoIP. Like I told you, it uses the same DTMF signaling to make the connection over the internet. And so no proprietary tones or protocols or connection formats are used. So it is compatible with many other brands. So most of the repeater locations in the country, if you physically look at the connectivity, the components that are involved in this IRLP will be like this. You will have it starts from the internet cloud. It gets terminated into an internet router. The IRLP uses a Linux software. It uses a Linux OS and a software on it for the control system and the various other functions. It in turn is getting connected directly to the radio. So internet becomes a must in all the locations where these repeaters are being put up. Today, I don't think in our country we'll have issue accessing internet, no matter which remote part of the country you want to put your repeater. But if you do have issues in getting internet access to those locations, I'm sure there are enough ways which are more economical and like the microwave links on 2.4 and 5.8 gigahertz, which are very, very cost effective and very simple to use, which can be easily used for all your internet terminals. And the VoIP technology, allows up to anywhere between 150 to 300 millisecond latency is quite acceptable by most of the VoIP technologies that are being used. So latency is never an issue. And a single hop microwave link should not give you more than 1 or 2 milliseconds of latency if configured and aligned correctly. So I feel basically the IRLP, if you ask me personally, I would prefer the IRLP over the Echolink, basically because it uses a radio-to-radio communication, which makes it more interesting for hands there. So I'm sure there are many other custodians and who will have come across various technologies. I think probably we can discuss and see if we can use and link repeaters, at least to start with 1 or 2 close to Mysuru, Bangalore, or Chennai, or down south, and see if we can take it forward. Because once you connect, once you link all the repeaters, the coverage is so huge during emergencies, it becomes very, very easy to communicate with each other. That's it from my side. 73s will wait. Take it up, Shankar.
Yes. So there it is. Fantastic points Sarav has raised. Any questions to start off with? Let us start off with the very intention of what do I say, why we should connect repeaters, obviously by whatever technology Sarav is talking about. So any questions on that to start off with? Anybody who would like to?
Yes, I would like to have one question. This is VU3 BOP Bopana from Bangalore.
Welcome, Bopana. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening to organizers and all guests and all friends on frequency on this meet. Yeah, yes, I just want, okay, I got into the meeting little late, but anyway, I missed first part of Saru's talk. But anyway, my only concern is, okay, linking of repeaters maybe down south or across the country is a wonderful idea, no doubt about it. It will really be tremendous for any people to access repeaters and communicate anywhere. But the question is, will the respective custodians of those repeaters, suppose I'm speaking from Bangalore, and I'm traveling elsewhere, okay, maybe I'll hit some other repeater there, and would they have any interest saying that, okay, all people are using it, how do we maintain this? I mean, that's one of the questions which arise from this particular the linking of coverage. Because if it's all like-minded, it's fine. But otherwise, do you think this sort of a problem you would foresee in case it's linked up in near future or in the coming years there, Shankar, over to you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bopana. Yes, an interesting question, no doubt about it. The thing is, this interconnection, whatever we have thought about, is for a very limited period. Of course, we can't keep it interconnected for 24/7, obviously. So let us start off with, let's say, in half an hour or 45 minutes net in the morning, and perhaps see how things would go, because we haven't done it physically. None of us, at least in India, haven't done it. So let us, the intention of this meet is to see if we can do it, add a small hardware, as Saravanan with Echo Tango Sierra said, add a small hardware to it, and see if we can link up these repeaters so that we can have a pan-India kind of a thing. Sarav, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, but I didn't go much into the technicality of the IRLP. Shankar, good evening, Bopana. See, basically this IRLP links, you can enable and disable as and when you require. Only thing is certain amount of self-discipline, that it is not to be used during net hours and things like that. So all the nodes in the IRLP network will have a 4-digit DTMF code, which you can trigger where the link gets switched on. You can use it, and you can shut the link down after usage, Shankar. Take it up, Shankar.
Yeah, that's the intention here. Anybody else would like to add to this? Of course, there is a DTMF triggering where we can switch it on and switch it off as and when we want. Anybody else has any thoughts on this? Let's see if the YouTube has anything here. Neil Bruce says a DTMF trigger would help. Yeah, definitely. That's what I was talking about. Anybody else has the custodians? How do you think should go? Okay, I have one Srinivas here. Please go ahead, Srinivas.
Good evening, everyone. I have worked on this kind of setup VoIP based radio repeaters, not in the ham radio community, but outside. I have tried something similar in our club for VU2 PHA repeater. First thing I wanted to know from Sarah is what hardware platform would you be using? Would you be using a PC or a Raspberry Pi kind of a thing, or a SBC 103 PC 103 platform? Second is my question about the fact during emergencies, the ability to have what do you say, internet access for the IRLP is not only limited but almost not available. If Saurav and or anyone else can answer this.
Can I go ahead, Shankar?
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah. Good evening, Srinivas. See, getting internet to any corners today is the least of the problems, Srinivas. So, like you said, let us assume during emergencies, in case network does go down, I'm sure we can have redundant links from various operators to have it covered. And I'm sorry, I didn't get your first question.
My first question, I'll come to it, but the mere fact that you've mentioned about getting a redundant link from any service provider, what has been observed is that the service providers themselves go down for the first 10 days or anywhere where there is a disaster. My first question is, what platform would you prefer using? A PC-based or a PC103 SBC, a single board computer, or your Raspberry Pi? What kind of hardware would you prefer?
Yeah, PC-based is what is preferred, running a Linux OS. There's a lot of acknowledgement that happens in between. The PC-based would be better, Srinivas.
An extension to the same question, why not Raspberry Pi based? Your power consumption is much lower for a PC 104 based.
Possible, we can think about it because it's quite flexible. We can definitely look at it.
Okay.
Shankar?
Okay, let's see. I think Alex had raised his hand earlier. Alex? No, okay.
So I just had a doubt about what's known as latency.
Okay. You wanted how the latency would be. I don't think it would be much. Saurav?
Latency, you wanted to know the kind of latencies you'll have on the internet links, is it?
I mean, the latency between the VHF signal and across the end-to-end, what would be the latency?
That will not be much. See, if you let us assume you have a microwave link connecting the internet service provider to the repeater side, that is 1 millisecond, and it gets connected directly to the router, to the PC, and to the radio, and back the same way. And latency is just probably, if you can just ping any of the US servers, I don't think you will hit more than 8 to 10 milliseconds. That is the normal latency on the internet links there. Whereas the Vivo IP can take up to 150 millisecond also.
Okay. Okay. I think Mangesh has a question. Mangesh, can you go ahead? OUM, VU3, OUM.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you. Saurav, I have a quick question actually. We here at Pune, VU2 RCP, have two repeaters here. One is VU2 ETD, which is connected to Echolink. And we have here a lease line as well as very low latency line, very stable line since long time. Of course, we cannot guarantee the conditions on the disaster, but very stable link from BSNL here, about 300 Mbps we are using it. So if you can share say like hardware details required for IRLP. I have never used an IRLP node, and that will be easier for us to build what we have to require, and we can check if right now say VU2 ETD is connected with Raspberry Pi, Echolink connected. We are using SVX link, and that is very stable, low power required for that. So we can think if you can share, say like hardware requirement, what you are right now thinking, we can see, and maybe we can do some kind of initial, say connecting a few repeaters, that will help other what is exactly the test of it. So that is my few words. Over to you, Saurav.
Can I go ahead, Shankar?
Yeah, go ahead, Saurav.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, Mangesh.
You can switch on your video also, Saurav.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mangesh. In fact, I have used one of your Pune repeaters on Echolink from my mobile during actually an emergency where we were trying to trace somebody. During one of those storms that hit the coastal Maharashtra, I think sometime last year. I don't remember the date. Was quite stable there. Yeah, and as far as the IRLP link, the hardware requirements are concerned, I will definitely, probably we can just mail it across to you. Each one of us can put in our thoughts and see how we can evolve that technology in a better way. Take it up, Shankar.
Okay. Right. That's the point. That's pretty interesting. Anybody else? Any questions on this? Other custodians who are there who have any questions? You can also chat. You can this thing. So one of the persons, RJV, has asked that is the digital repeaters, are they the future? I would say yes. It's the question of, it is not the question of will it be the future, but no matter whatever repeater we buy from anybody, or even if I have to go back and build my own repeater, I don't think we can get into the legacy system. I think somebody is there. Okay. Okay. Deepan has this thing. Go ahead, Deepan. Deepan,
you have to unmute your mic.
Yeah. Now are we copying me now?
Yep. Copying you.
Yeah. Okay. Good evening, Shankar, Madhu, and Saravanan, and all. Very nice to meet you all on the golden year, the 100 years Hamfest 2021. Very interesting topic. Nearly about 10 years back itself, we tried with 2-3 repeaters connected with an Echolink and operated it, linking up all the 3 repeaters for 20-25 minutes, and we are able to have a good communication. As Saravanan told about building an IRLP, going to the repeater site and other things. Okay, now we have so many new hams who have the possibilities of building all these things are possible. But right now, to go ahead with, I think the Echolink is an easiest method where we can link and we can form a separate group with all the things have been locked so that others cannot enter in, and you can link all the repeaters and you can have a round table net, which is quite possible immediately, or maybe a week's time or a 10 days time. That may be possible to start with. Then later date, I think you can think of other methods to link the repeaters. Main thing is, only thing is the discipline of the operator. See, because if one operator is going to operate and if 10 repeaters are connected, his voice is going to be heard on all the 10 repeaters. So the discipline with the hams and the coordinator who is going to coordinate from all the locations has to be very, very important. So right now, to start with, my sincere suggestion is to go ahead with the Echolink node immediately. Then later on think of other possible modes. So that's my suggestion. And if in a city like in Chennai city, we have 2 repeaters. Right now, 2 repeaters are operational. So if one repeater is ideal, so we can possibility of linking that repeater for at least 1 or 2 hours to leave it on, and later on we can disconnect. So that possibility is also there. If we have a single repeater, yes, okay, we have to limit the timings. So that's my sincere suggestion, Shankar and Saravanan. Over to you, VTSPK, BA to DPM.
Yeah, thanks, Deepan, for that excellent this thing. That's right. So let's start up. This is the first of the many more interactions that we will have before we reach the ultimate stage of connecting the repeaters. We will certainly take your idea. We'll create a small group, Deepan. We'll certainly do that and see how we can interconnect. What are the plus? What are the minus? Think about it, and I'm sure, Sarav, legally there is nothing that stops us from connecting, interconnecting two repeaters also, Sarav. Go ahead, ATS.
Yeah, thank you, Shankar. Thank you, Deepan. Yeah, point well taken, Deepan. Of course, today most of the repeaters are connected through Echolink because it's much simpler to use. Just looking at options basically to see if we can get a better technology, better control for linking up various repeaters there, Deepan. Thank you. Take it up, Shankar.
Yeah, Dibanshu Saha, sir, go ahead.
Thanks, Sarav. Thanks, the host. So my handle is Victor Uniform 2 Delta Echo Foxtrot. QTH is Bangalore TC Palia. So I actually would like to second.
Not hearing you.
Yeah, so my camera is a little bit off than the mic, so that's why I'm disabled on the camera. So I mean, later conversation I may come on the camera as well. So just give me 2 seconds. So 2 points here. I think IRLP should be our way forward because of its open source part. That's number one. Because Echolink hosted solution may have some challenges in terms of the scale. If we want to scale a bit, then Echolink may not be the right platform to go with. But the other question was like ICOM and some devices are having a D-Star kind of a facility for connecting to repeaters, which is ICOM's proprietary though. But I saw in their list there is a repeater in India which is enabled with D-Star. So are we thinking of like existing repeaters who are having D-Stars? Should we be able to collaborate with those? Or as of now, we can think of like short-term stuff which in wherein a few IRLP repeaters can talk, and we can try it out at our level. Over to you, Sarav. And
Sarav, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't get your handle.
Debanshu, call sign Victor Uniform 2 Delta Echo Foxtrot.
Yeah, okay. Good evening there. And yeah, like you said, yes, going forward, probably IRLP could be the technology we can use. And see,
All okay, Sarav, anything?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you just repeat that question, Shankar?
Okay, what he said was, should we convert the existing ones, or should we have a small group with a new kind of a link and test it out? That's what I could understand, Devanshu. So that's
okay. Okay. Now I remember. Now you said a few repeaters or whatever you have seen comes with a D-Star built in. The IRLP does not use any proprietary technology here. It's open source and it uses a very simple DTMF signaling. The compatibility of this with any brand should not be an issue. So that way, it's very flexible that way. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sure. I think we are good. So I just moving away from proprietary stuff is what we should try, and all aligned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else has any questions? Anything on this subject? So what I would feel is, I think perhaps, Sarav, we can think of a small group, connect with custodians later on post this, take this forward as we move along, and perhaps talk to about a few repeaters in and around, maybe Mysore, Bangalore, or Chennai, where the connectivity and the mobility is much easier, and also the availability of the net. Think perhaps have a small group and give it a shot, test it out, and see how it would go forward. Would that be a good idea, everyone, the custodians? Would that be a good idea?
I think so, Shankar. That's a good idea. In fact, we can form a group and keep discussing. And as we keep discussing, I'm sure we'll have more things that might come out from various people there. I think Deepan had something. Deepan, you have something?
Yes. So initially, I think we can form a group, and we will try with our, I think, because ours is all old analog repeaters like FTR 2410. Still, it's nearly about 33 years old. It is still working. So right now, updating of a digital repeater or updating with other things may not be possible at an immediate thing. So whatever we have, so we will try it out with the available things, and then later on, if everything goes on well and there is a good response, then think of updating to a digital repeaters and the other things. So that's my suggestion, Shankar and Sarah.
Okay, yeah, that's what to do. And GMN Gopal says that the IRLP is quite extensively used in Australia, I believe. I think we can be in touch with a couple of hams from Australia and just see how things are going there at that place, at that land. Sarah?
We can do that, Shankar. And Deepan, see, whether it is an old repeat, we are also using a VXR 5000 in Mysore. That's almost around 25, 26 years old. The DTMF, using a DTMF signaling on any of these repeaters should not be an issue at all. And like you said, let's go ahead and form the group and keep discussing, and then take it forward from there. Take it up, Shankar.
Okay. So that's it. So, and also I have one, Srinivas says that right now working on linked repeater controller with provision for 2 link and a computer interface for VoIP software. Let's see how things would go with you also, Srinivas. Let's see how things would go, and we will see how we can take this to a larger scale. Perhaps as Deepan and Sarav said, start with a small group and then go ahead with a much larger rollout, perhaps in a couple of years from now. I'm sure technology would also would have improved there, Sarav. Okay. Now, any other questions? Any other questions? Let me have a look at the YouTube also. Is there any questions that we need to take up? Okay, so I don't think you have any this thing on. Anybody else here would like to share their experience, thought on interlinking of repeaters? Anybody here who would like to say a couple of words?
Yeah, hi gentlemen, this is Karan. I'm View to India Bravo from New Delhi. I'm basically custodian for View to FUN repeater and View to HUB repeater. So this repeater basically supports Echolink, analog, and DMR. All the 3 are there. So my take on interlinking is that you know, the various repeaters owners can be given a choice of the various technologies which are available, whether it is IRLP, there is All-Star, there is SVX Link, and a couple of other would be there. So whichever is convenient for them, because at the end of the day, they all can be brought to a common platform. There are different bridges which can be created behind that, and those bridges can also link the digital side of it. So not necessarily that all have to be on digital. Now there are 2 ways. One is that we link repeaters, or there's another way that we form a conference server which is dedicated for just linking of repeaters. and or links as well. So links would be like the direct frequency, single frequency channels, which will be like a gateway in a city. So if you go, let's say on 145, 200, and you give a call, your call is not only heard within your city, but it is also heard, in the places where that connectivity is going. So that way your repeaters can be free in those times when the repeaters want to be used locally. And when you want to link the repeater, you can change over to the repeater as well if you need be. So there are different options available, and every different type of mode has its own technology, has its own pros and cons. But interlinking is definitely possible, and it comes with a responsibility. And not only the users have to follow a decorum on it, but even the repeaters have to be programmed in such a way that they don't interlock each other, so that the communication becomes impossible. So just wanted to share my thought on it.
Yeah. Thanks.
Karan this side, yeah.
Karan, thanks, Karan, for that excellent feedback. Absolutely, as you said, it comes with a tremendous amount of responsibility. No doubt it comes with a thing. And as I said, it will not be a 24/7. We'll start off. We can't be locking the repeater all across for one call, which could be between two people in a city or on a particular frequency, whatever you said. Perhaps we can start off as sort of a South India, West India, West India, Indian or a North Indian sort of a net. Maybe slowly go with a couple of cities and then move to a pan-India kind of a thing, Karan. So as you rightly said, it comes with a tremendous amount of responsibility. You're handling and hogging the bandwidth or the frequency. It comes definitely with a big responsibility. So that's right. So let's see how it goes. This is, I think, this is the first of the, as I said, many more discussions that we will have as we move forward. I'm sure we will see how things would go. So it's about 16:40 hours here in India. Any other questions here for this subject? Anybody? Okay. So if there are no other questions, what I'll do is I'll perhaps take the liberty of having, because of the both of our guests for the next session is also here, DL2MAN and PE1NNZ, both of them are here. Delighted to have you, both of you. Such a pleasure to have you from Germany and from Netherlands. Thanks very much for accepting our invitations there. So what we will do is we will end this session and then start off with the next session. Would that be okay, Madhu? Mike Uniform Delta?
I think that will be the ideal thing. We can have the next sessions through and continue it after we have the disaster that networking presentation, where we will have the extended time. We can continue with that before we have the concluding session, Shankar.
Yes. And before I end, I have one seems to be an interesting question. So we'll give that benefit to that. Pramod has this thing. What about amateur radio repeater satellites? In many cases, circumstances, many places, internet connectivity will be abundant. So this is literally going connecting repeaters with a QO100. So both are entirely different. But nevertheless, Pramod, an interesting thought. We'd also thought about having at the end of this session, we are also planning. Oops, I'm sorry. I was listening. Pretty interesting question one before I conclude. What about QO100 kind of a satellite instead of interconnecting repeater? Also an interesting question, no doubt about it. But let's see, the intention we have thought about in Mysuru to also have a sort of a QO100 kind of a satellite from our VU land. let's see, there's quite a lot of discussions are happening internally now. We will put it on a table once sort of a blueprint is ready to have a sort of a CubeSat or sort of an AMSAT kind of a thing across covering the geography of our country. So let's see how things would move on. Quite a lot of interesting things happening on in the space segment. Quite a lot of companies coming into, quite a lot of Indian companies are coming into space segment, and we have pretty near to Bangalore, we have a couple of companies. ISRO has been proactive, and we will see how things would go and take this forward. So with that last question, I am indeed very happy for all the custodians and for this excellent discussion that we had on this interlinking of repeaters. So thanks very much to each one of you, and thanks especially to my friend here in Mysuru, Vita Echo Tango Sierra, for coordinating the whole thing and coming up with an idea of this. So once again, thanking each one of you. So let us now move on to our next session. Okay, talking of the next sessions, I don't think I should be taking time. I'm sure we have our friend video exec Kiran. Are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Excellent, Kiran. So I'm sure you are ready to introduce both our guests, PE1 NNZ and DL2 MAN Kiran. So can we go ahead and
okay.
Okay, go ahead. All yours, Kiran. Incidentally, you know, just to say, Kiran is from Bangalore, has call sign is Victor United to X-Ray Echo. He'll be the moderator for this session. X-Ray Echo, Victor United to X-Ray Echo is his call sign. He's from Bangalore, an electronics engineer with tremendous enthusiasm in microelectronics, microcontrollers, and microbitex and things like that. So he got his ticket in sometime in 1997, if I'm right, Kiran. So there you are. Thanks very much for accepting to be our moderator for this session. So all yours, Kiran. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, the Hamfest India committee and all of my friends. Welcome to all of online listeners, audience, as well as our guests for today's session from European world. Dear Delta Lima 2 Mike Alpha November and Papa Echo 1 November Zulu. Both are distinguished guests. One of the things in most of Ham's spirit or Ham's world nowadays is about use of latest technology at affordable cost. And it is often that we hear from many of the new Hams that how easily we can get into the hobby without spending a lot of money. Because nowadays we see latest technology with a lot of bells and whistles built in, a lot of SDR buzzword and a lot of things, but we are missing somewhere with the cost factor. So that is when I think the ham spirit and global fraternity and friendship comes in play. I got introduced to some of the home brewing with the QCX Mini and QCX from QRP Labs some time back. I built their kits as well as microbitex in the past. From that standpoint, the next kind of advancement I was actually naturally thinking about was to get into the SSB plus all band type of transceiver. I have my built transceiver in my hand. For those who have not seen what these two gentlemen are going to talk about, this is very affordable type of transceiver, like within $50, $50 US plus plus some $10-15. Yes, manual there showing up his device. So I don't have much text of introduction to both of you guys. I'm really sorry about it, but I will leave that up to you to introduce yourself to this. But I would really say that from all of Indian hams and who the homebrewers and contesters like me also, like I'm more into contesting and DXing. And also I do a lot of home brewing related to some improvements of my station. So we are very eagerly waiting for this type of a presentation. And probably in Bangalore Amateur Radio Club, I was told that more than 100 micro SDX were built in the recent past. That is a very huge number, which got me excited also. I just when I was building QCX Mini, I was reading about micro SDX mod, which Hans has referred in his website, but I never thought about getting into that. But now it is a chance. I'm going to introduce both of you to this and to talk about your project itself. What is the motivation behind it, and who is your target audience, and how actually people like us around the world can actually benefit from that thought process, and how actually we can contribute back. If there is a way, I saw a lot of coding has been done, tremendous amount of work has been done by both of you. There is a good GitHub repository as well, which is open source with the Creative Commons license nowadays, which is very exciting for many of us who are tinkerers, makers in this world. And then I think we want to explore a little bit further. With that, I will hand it over to Delta Lima 2 Mike Alpha November Manuel, and you can introduce yourself and your project, and get probably we can have a round table. I will be also listening to the questions, and I will be moderating those questions to you. If there is a question, there are any questions from the audience perspective. Over to you, Manuel, to start with.
Kieran, first of all, thank you for introducing me and for introducing us. And it's an honor and a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invitation. Very honored, seriously. And I'm excited and surprised to hear that so many micro SDXs have been built in your community. I'm really happy to hear that. Well, about me, it's not much to talk. I was getting into that project just simply by doing the right call at the right moment. When actually I was building the QCX as you, and I was not so happy about the fact that there was no AGC present. I was looking around and I saw a back then still unknown modification by Guido, Papa Echo 1 November Zulu, his GitHub page you were referring to. And he packed actually quite a lot DSP features into that little 8-bit microcontroller. And I get so interested in that, I wrote him an email and he actually replied, which was pretty surprising to me. And this is basically the beginning of all of that. Maybe Guido, you can say a few words if you like.
Yeah, I'm Guido, Papa Echo 1 November Zulu. Well, I started this project somewhere in 2018, but actually a lot of things happened before as well to make it all possible. And yeah, I've actually always been an experimenter and home brewer since my youth. So in this project, I met a lot of people and we had a lot of fun together. And Manuel, yeah, we created actually, we had a lot of interesting things that were actually following on when we met. Yeah, it's that's a bit the story. But maybe we can maybe go through it. How it actually all happened and all went, and what it actually is about, because maybe not everybody knows what the micro SDX is.
Yeah. Yes, that would be much better, like how actually the project started and what exactly the micro SDX is about, and the goals for it, what is it, its capabilities right now, and what is the roadmap for it, because that is what actually gets many of us excited about. And if whoever has made some of the early kits or early home brewing from it, probably will be looking for improvising going further, because that is one of the core aspects of these type of radios, wherein we can upload new softwares and evolve the radios as new features get into the software itself than just this hardware side. Because it is another interesting aspect which I found, probably I will look for in this your talk also, is a modularity. So you have built sandwich boxes, which can be, you can bring your own, low pass filter module. You can bring your own processor module or anything like that. You can actually stack them, and that gives extensive capability to the end user to think about future expansions. Also, probably you can start. You can give us some more insight about those type of thought processes which you had, and how actually it is evolving right now. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I can walk you through the complete history, which is lying right next to me. I prepared for you. Let's start with the original QCX. This is where it all started. You can see it's pretty busy and populated all over there. I don't know, can you see me all?
Yeah,
we can see.
Very busy, very populated, and actually this was a revolution at that time for me, to have a radio that you can build at your home. This is working very great and is feature packed. And the next revolution for me was, I can show it maybe side by side. This is the original QCX, and here you can see the modified QCX SSB, which is a lot less going on this PCB. This was DDoS modification, and all the fun is happening suddenly inside the microcontroller, which is below the display here. And my first approach, my first thought was, hey, this QCXs need to be built per band, and we would like to have that multi-band. And I was being told this cannot be done, so I felt challenged. And the first thing was to add band modules to that. This was I think my very first PCB I designed. No, actually, this is original QRP Labs. I'm sorry. This is not even my design. So I was using QRP Labs band modules to extend the QCX or QCX SSB, and could change bands this way. And well, then later we said, hey, there's so much space left on the PCB. Why not do a dedicated PCB for that? And actually, this is what you said. We had from the very beginning, we had the modularity in mind, since we did not know where this would lead us. So I split it into 3 parts. This is the main board, which has the controller, the microcontroller on there, the core receiver, and the receive transmit switches on there. And then we have the I/O board, which has display, all the connectors, microphone, buttons. You will see why, because I changed that later to a different display. And then the RF board, which will also come handy later. This is a fun thing. Just put it out of my box, and I saw, hey, this back then you already were experimenting with different Class E approaches. Because what you have to know is the original QCX is using parallel resonance Class E, which is a fine thing, but can only be efficient up to 80%. And as a German, we need to have efficiency in mind, right? So I wanted to take this a step further, and in the end, we reached around about 93%, up to 93% of efficiency, PA efficiency, which is a great thing. But yeah, let's let's go step by step. Okay, so this was revision 1 of the sandwich, the first approach, trying to split this into separate PCBs. I was not very happy about it. You can see I've ground a little on the edges because I realized I need ground connections, better ground connections when I connected the PCBs. And let's go to the next step, which is this one. Yes, this is revision 2. I already had a bigger display because OLED created back then. Oh, yes. OLED created back then a little bit of noise, not a little bit. Actually, it was to the point where it's no longer usable. And so we went back to the LCD. The problem with that LCD here is it's quite expensive. And I wanted to stay within that form factor because we had originally in mind to make it way smaller than the original QCX. This, just to make you aware of that, it has the same form factor as a credit card, 85 by 55.
Yeah.
But still modular. This is the I/O board. This is the main board with the core transceiver on there. And this is still the RF board. Now, modularity led to the next logical step. This was the very first multiband class E board. And the fun thing about the modularity is, okay, I swapped the other one out and swapped this one in. And just by redefining the software, I'm now having a 5-band rig.
Yeah.
This was back then, yeah, already the revolution. By I don't know for sure, but as far as I know, this was the world's first multiband class E rig. I'm not sure about that. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at that time it was the case. And yeah, but this was still parallel resonance class E, the same style the QCX is using. This means 3 band modules were shared by 5 bands. There's a lot of compromises going on here, but it worked up to efficiency of 80%. The next logical step then, or yeah, I don't know if it was logical. I was experimenting with serial resonance class E according to NM0S. I was reading into that and I said, hey, this sounds very interesting because we could get higher efficiency with that. So I've built, yeah, this is the 5-band board, which is, by the way, up to this point, I can swap any PCB out and put it to the other rig. It's completely modular. If I decide to have an OLED I/O board on there, I can do that. If I want to put the old 5-band parallel resonance class E RF board on there or monoband, I can do that. I can swap that out. That was our experimenting platform to explore the micro SDX. So this was a 5-band board, serial resonance class E. At this point, we are already at 85% up to 90% of efficiency. I was using 3 BS170s as a PA, the same the QCX was using.
Yeah.
And it worked actually pretty well, but there was a demand for more bands and higher efficiency. So the next thing was the 8-band board, which is up to date. Yeah, this is the current state. We have still something more going on, which we will show you later. But this is the current version of it. We have 8 bands from 80 meters to 10 meters, efficiency up to 90%. There's one drawback in that. Or yeah, it's not a bug, it's a feature, we must say. Since we have so high efficiency, there's only one tiny little SOT23 FET on there.
Yeah. Exactly.
This thing does 5 watts.
Wow.
Imagine that. And it doesn't smoke away, at least not when you have good SWR. That's the fun fact. Yep. But that is at the same time the drawback with that design, because if you have bad SWR, it will smoke away pretty easy. So we decided we need to do something about it, and more about that later. That was about the history until now. And in the meantime, Hans, G0UPL, founder of QP Labs, reached out to us, or we reached out to him, and yeah, he offered us to do a little daughter bot to make the original QCX to QCX SSP modification easier. And yeah, this led to the QCX Mini, which is very interesting entry point, and it has also a very nice form factor. Yeah, I really love it. Got to admit, Hans is a true mastermind when it comes to designing, because this thing is layered and puzzled. It reminds me a little bit of Tetris. So maybe we can hand over to Guido to share a little bit of the background story of how it works and why it works, because I'm responsible a little bit for the practical aspects of it, and Guido is the true mastermind behind it, because it's basically all his idea. From the initial, the initial thought is by him. I just picked it up and happened to be at the right place at the right time. Guido, please. You're muted, Guido.
Mute.
Excuse me, so this should be better.
Yes.
Yes, so there were actually a lot of developments actually in the past happening that we actually all either used or developed ourselves to bring that actually all together into actually the transceiver that we have created as of today. And I want to show you a bit how that historical view looked like. Maybe I can share a picture about that. Don't know if this is visible. Is it? Can you see the?
Yes, we can see that.
Okay. Yes. So yeah, so somewhere, actually, basically here, the orange path is basically more or less related to what we are doing. It's the micro SDX here around 2020. It started to get a shape where basically we formed a group together, and from where we actually started developing the things that Manuel just showed. There were also many other initiatives by other people who developed their IDs. BARPS, WB2CBA was also one very popular design that was built up in multiple stages. In the end, it was all based on the same ID. This ID basically, maybe I should show it quickly. Now, it is, I can show it maybe a bit later. Here. It's all based on this principle. This is simplified. This is actually the schematic that actually all these rigs more or less use. It is all centered around an 8-bit Atmega processor that do the DSP processing. There's here at the front a mixer that's used for the reception. There's an oscillator involved, of course, to tune the mixer at the right frequency. There's an amplification stage that ensures that the received signals are actually amplified to a level where the DSP processing can start. And there's a speaker here on the output to make the audio hearable. And there's also a transmit section. So based on that same oscillator, the very famous SI5351 PLL chip, we also use it basically for the transmit directly in the PA stage here. BS170s are used as a PA stage, but also the tinier ones, as Manuel just showed, and also bigger ones, the old-fashioned RF 510s, etc., are also used by people. Now, yeah, and in this way, you have a transmit section. This is actually a fully CW, SSB, AM, FM capable rig for all the shortwave bands. I must say that here the low-pass sections, filter sections, are essential then to make them switchable in actually the way how Manuel just showed, to also make it, that emissions are according to standards, of course, but also to make it efficient, because this low-pass filter stage is essential to actually make an efficient power amplifier stage in a Class E mode. That is actually so different from Class E. You need to tune things very well to make it efficient. And if you do so, you can actually just proceed with very simple power amplifier FETs without heat sinks, etc., that you normally have in a Class A approach. Manuel, you want to say something about it?
Yeah, if I just might add to that, the PA FET is part of the tuned circuit in Class E. That's important to know, especially if you want to build it and you change the FET, everything changes. You need to keep that in mind, because the capacitance of the FET that is involved is really important to how the next step is working, just to keep that in mind.
Yeah. Exactly. Now, for the rest, you see here a display here on the side, a rotary encoder to control the rig, CW Morse key input, and a microphone input. Hey, there's a microphone input. Yes, we can do SSB with this rig in digital fashion, and I'll come to that later, how that actually works. So going back to that historical graph, so basically, the micro SDX, as Manuel said, it's based on the QCX. Here, the QCX was launched somewhere in 2017 and 2017. We used that as a development platform, actually to demonstrate what's possible. And that was not done all at once. It was done in multiple stages. So first, what was announced in the QCX group was that, hey, it's possible actually to do SSB with a QCX rig. And I came up with a very simple modification with a few wires to actually create a microphone input on the QCX, so that, yeah, some audio input could be processed by the microprocessor. And in this way, you could then actually use the QCX for SSB transmission. All the SSB was actually then generated by means of software, not in the traditional way by means of crystal filters or other ways. It's just digital processing. Then at a later stage, this was further extended because the receiver was still the old-fashioned analog section. We used the CW filters. We bridged the CW filters to make it possible to listen to the SSB bandwidth. But it was not very optimal. But the first change was actually that the receiver section was actually just still analog and just feed in one of the ADC inputs to do some DSP processing. And this allowed actually us to make some configurable filters for SSB and CW. But it was still not an SDR. It was just still analog processing to do IQ processing, like actually happened in the QCX originally, and that was actually then digitally processed, so we could then do filter selection, and that was then later also changed to do fully SDR processing in the Atmega. So we had an I and a Q input, as I just showed you in that schematic here. There's a separate I here and a separate Q input that actually made it possible to do SDR processing in the Atmega chip. And that made it actually a very simple design, because the whole analog section could be removed. Yeah, and that's why the schematic is so simple as it is as of today. Now, before this all was possible, this SSB generation algorithm, it didn't exist actually. And the whole ideas about class E, and it was not there yet. Nobody really used this in amateur radio. There were even people saying this can never work well because yeah, class E, it's too tricky, too difficult to make a reliable rig out of it. But actually we started with it, and now actually the beginning here, it's actually very far away in history, where originally in the 70s people started doing SSB in a different manner by using injection locking oscillators and trying to lock an oscillator on their SSB signal to prevent television interference problems. That was done at the 70s. So they could actually use the continuous oscillator signal to prevent actually the amplitude modulation effects, to prevent that actually from disturbing on televisions, etc. So that was something I experimented something in the 90s with, and I was surprised. Hey, this actually sounds pretty well, even if you don't have amplitude control, just by locking an oscillator to an SSB signal. Hey, it's actually still possible to create an audible signal, and this changed something in my mind. Like, hey, this is interesting. At that time, you had also the EER, the envelope elimination and restoration techniques that were developed by Kahn. It was a way where, yeah, efficient class E amplifier stages were, yeah, created to separate out the phase information and the amplitude information of a signal, and then yeah, drive that power amplifier in 100% continuous efficiency mode, and then later restore actually the envelope effects on it. And that techniques were later used by this rig actually in software-defined fashion to generate basically SSB signals. This all was actually not developed in the micro SDX or on the QCX itself in the first instance. It all started basically on the Raspberry Pi. Raspberry Pis were there somewhere in 2012, and there was a guy who developed a program called PiFM. And with PiFM, it's possible to generate FM signals just by putting a wire on GPIO pin 4. And you could tune the PLL to an FM band and then modulate it with frequency modulation. You could listen to the music that you then send out with your Raspberry Pi. And this idea I picked up to make Raspberry Pi, where a whisper signal was encoded on this PLL. And I used this to transmit on the shortwave bands with 10 milliwatts out of that GPIO pin and a low pass filter. You could then whisper around the world, and that had a huge success. People used that. People also put some amplifiers behind it, and that worked all pretty well. So this was actually a demonstration that these PLLs, you can pretty pretty accurately program the frequency and use that for actually any kind of modulation, I was thinking. So that gave the idea basically to start experimenting with SSB modulation. So I implemented there Pi SSB, a way where combined with that EER technology and that injection locking ID, I experimented then a way to program that PLL in such a way that the phase was actually programmed that it could contain the SSB voice signal. That was then later picked up by a French guy, and he launched an open source project based on that. Yeah, I forgot now what it is called. By no, don't remember. But this is this is done by Everest F5OEO, I believe. Yeah, you can still use that today to transmit SSB with your Raspberry Pi, but also all kind of other things, other modulations you can do with that. Because if you can generate SSB signal, you can actually generate any other signal. Then I used that technology in a very experimental Wi-Fi transceiver, which I have here. It's an ESP8266 with actually similar schematic. It has a switchable, it has a codec, an ADC on board for the reception. And yeah, I could make a very tiny web SDR out of this, but it had all kinds of issues. The Wi-Fi transceiver disturbed itself, disturbed on the receiver, and in that way, it was not really usable on all bands. So it had also a transmit section, and with that, I could then transmit by means of a web browser. It didn't work all that great, but it was a demonstration model that could be done also outside the Raspberry Pi. This thing had already this SI5351 PLL on board, and that gave the idea later then here to start experimenting with an Arduino board to see actually. To see, it's difficult. Why can I not move this time here? Now, doesn't matter. I wanted to show a picture of it here. This was the first experimental stage where I used such SI5351 board with an Arduino board, and this way I could generate then SSB with an Arduino, and that was actually the basis later then for this project. To do actually SSB generation. From there we used it in SQCX SSB, and the whole thing started developing, and there was a group formed somewhere mid last year, and from there the whole thing started developing. Also CW was added later on because Manuel really wanted to have a CW, a good CW rig out of it. So I really started also working on filters, and very good filters, by the way, that go down to 50 hertz, from 500 to 50 hertz bandwidth, and it's really interesting to listen to these filters. And I think it has become a really interesting rig. So I have here the 5-band version that Manuel created a long time ago, and it's really performing great. So why is this now? Go ahead, Manuel.
The initial mail was, I was asking him, you call that QCX SSB, can we use it for CW? Because I was totally into CW only and still am up to date, and really pushed him later on to implement the best CW rig we could get out of there. And he did a really great job. In fact, the filters he implemented beat the filters of commercial radios. I've compared that several times, which is incredible. Just imagine that comes from an 8-bit microcontroller. That's crazy, totally crazy.
It was not easy to create these filters because in an 8-bit processor, you don't have floating point logic. So you need to do a hard job basically to to create very dedicated, customized filters out of it. They are quite okay. How they sound, they are very nice. I think in terms of usage. Of course, there are limitations in an 8-bit processor. There are real limitations in terms of sample rates that you can achieve. We're using about 60 kilohertz sampling rates internally to bring down all this SDR processed audio. And can maybe show in a little block schematic how that actually goes. It's on the GitHub page. 1 second. Here, you see basically the outsides, the mixers, etc. here that I have in the left side, and here the PA and the PLL on the left side. That's all actually in analog form, and the rest is actually all in digital, in software form, and you see it's quite a lot. Especially the receiver side, it's quite sophisticated. So this 60 kilohertz sampling rate basically is then internally downsampled to a lower rate, 8 kilobit. Now, and from there, there's an AGC function. There are Hilbert transforms to separate out the bands, the left and the side band. So there's a sideband rejection, which we obtain about 50 dB, 45 dB, minus 45 dB sidebands rejection or more, depending on the errors on the INQ signals. Now, and there's a demodulation stage in software, including the filters here, the selectable filters 100, 200, 1700, 2400, and just full. And then it is upsampled again to 60 kilohertz and sent in PWM format to a speaker. And that sounds pretty okay. It's not hi-fi quality, but hey, it's on the short waves. Who needs hi-fi? So that was a bit also the background of this transceiver. Like, hey, let's design a transceiver that only needs or only consumes the resource of, keep it simple, basically, for the purpose it's actually used for. Many rigs of today, especially the big SDRs, they are completely over-dimensioned with too many bits on the ADC level, I would say. I've here shown here that actually with 8 bits or 10 bits ADC, you can actually make a very well-performing receiver. And there are reasons why it is actually well-performing. It's there is a good mixer in front of it, the Tailu mixer. I want actually to show historically this has been defined by Tailu, N7 Victor Echo. He designed officially this, or he went along with this this idea. It's basically a switched mixer, which makes it much better immune for high, strong signals on the antenna input. And that became actually pretty popular here, as you see on the picture in the 2000s. Let me zoom out a bit. 2000s here. This was popularized by an ARRL article, software defined for the masses. And it was picked up by Tony Parks, KB9JIG. He created the soft rock. He wanted to combine the Rockmite QRP transceiver with this digital transceiver ID, and that became the soft rock. And Flex Radio started their SDR thousands out of it. And then Tailu, he himself created the Norcal 2030 out of it, and which was a very high performant analog CW transceiver, which was offered as a kit somewhere at that time. And this was also the, I think, if you look to the design, there are portions used in the QCX, the filter stages for IQ processing, the backend filter processing, But Hans made it very, very well possible to simplify that quite complicated design with analog oscillators and but still his design was Hans's design was still actually quite quite complex in terms of number of components. So if you do everything in software, you end up with much less, about a quarter of the components needed. And that was then actually the basis for our project. So what we basically have done in this project is focus on high performance, especially for the transmit, also on the receive front end, but also to simplify things where possible, to do as much as things possible in software, where it normally would have been done in hardware. That's done for the SSB generation part, and it's done for the reception part. And that's basically what it is. And that makes it actually very open and easy to build in many different forms and different shapes. And that's what's so fun in this group. It's open for everybody to use. Everybody can use the ideas to develop it further. The software is open, the hardware is open. There were originally some constraints on the design that Manuel made, but we have also opened that up. And we really encourage everybody to start kitting out these designs. And maybe Manuel, you can
pick up here, yes,
that.
Because Kiran was initially asking questions about price, motivation, and so on. And so I would like to pick that up and talk a little bit about that. I remember when I was a student and I couldn't afford ham radio. And I find it quite fascinating always to build rigs. Guido, maybe you can stop sharing your screen. So I needed to build stuff, and my motivation is actually to have a usable rig that's as cheap as possible out there. And I don't know if, most of you will know recently the Chinese, some small business companies have picked up the idea and have produced rigs and put them out there. They are now for sale and reached a much bigger audience. So, and by default, this is not a bad thing. Actually, we feel quite honored to be in that position. I mean, many people dream of that. Hey, we have an idea and somebody's picking that up and selling that. And actually, that's a great thing to happen. However, there are a few issues I'm having and I'm seeing with that. And actually, that is, price is one thing. It comes at a pretty high price tag, in my opinion, because it was thought of as an entry-level rig, and I don't think everybody in the world can afford 150 to 200 euro or dollar rig. So the production costs are way lower, just to mention that. That's the motivation. We want a cheap usable rig, because I've built in the past, and actually every time I built it, it worked to some degree, but I would not like to do a QSO with it because it was so bad. And the QCX changed that at a certain point. Still, there were limitations, and the QCX, the micro SDX is a rig you actually can use, and I used that in a contest situation. I've added to that a PA control, so you can really use it in a contest situation. We have added the possibility to do CW keying via N1MM, which does work, makes it also good in a contest situation. This is a usable rig. You got to keep that in mind. And as a reply to what the Chinese did, we said, we can do that better, probably. So we decided to develop a final stage of the micro SDX, because I think this 8-bit thing, we have put that as far as we could, and we wanted to put everything in there we learned out of the project. And here you can see the prototype of the final version of the sandwich, which is now, ta-da, only 2 boards. And maybe you can see right here in front, we have a USB port. The USB port is used for cut control, for power supply. If you need emergency power supply, it will create 0.5 watts out if you just power it up by a power bank. If you add, we have a barrel jack here. That was also a wish from many OEMs because I was always using this terminal blocks and they are quite unhandy. So now you can connect and disconnect easily power supply. What do we have here? Yeah, big thing. Upgrade now, firmware over USB. This is pretty fast and very convenient. I really love it because in my position, I get almost every day a new firmware version by Guido. Hey, test this real quick, and then everything starts all over again. You need to connect the ISP connector, which we still have there. But now just plug in the cable, click, and it's done in.
Also for cut use, right? It's also for connecting your rig and working with digital modes with the PC. You can just use a USB connector instead of a serial interface. So it's all in there now.
It's all in there, and I don't know. Maybe we can talk about this a little bit further on. I don't know how much time we have left. I think we are already over that.
Manuel, Kiran here. So I think we can have 5 more minutes for this topic, and then we can start taking some questions. Very, very interesting things, and I think there are a couple of people who has joined, who have experience with the building this, and I would want to hear, or I would want them to talk about why they choose micro SDX build in a club environment, and inspired a lot of other hams to do it. So you have 5 more minutes and we can continue.
Then I will fast forward here. Okay, we have USB port now. What we planned as distribution model, because obviously we do not have the channels to supply worldwide. We opened up everything, as Guido already told you. I will publish the files as soon as we are ready. So everybody worldwide who feels able to do so, everybody can do group buy, can commercialize it, I don't care. And I will support that as best as possible. And the idea, the plan is to have that kit to be available in a group buy situation for below $50. That's the goal here.
Wow.
Okay. Then, okay, we'll leave the rest out. Maybe Guido want to say some few words.
Yes, I really want to, who has not built yet one, I really want to invite one, or one who doesn't believe that this can work, really want to invite them to try it out and build. You can start building it yourself on a PCB board, just from the schematic. It's also a challenge and also interesting, and you can learn a lot from it. You can also just go ahead with the kits and the boards. It's most fun to build one rig yourself. There are rigs also available somewhere on the internet. I suggest to build one. It's most fun.
What an amazing days we are in, and thank you very, very much, Manuel and Guido, for coming up with this big concept and making it realize that something great as this, something more practical as this is possible with the very minimal type of interfacing, very minimal type of components, and some thought, very genius type of implementation of software. That is something which is gives me some goosebumps, and probably I will also try this very soon, because I built this Tony Park's Soft Rock early in 2011, and from there I got hooked into SDR type of audio and the signal processing and all that. And when I heard about micro micro BTEX in India. So Farhan's project. So I had built that as well. But in my contesting environment, I never used these things. And lately, after seeing QCX, which actually had a very clean and very clean separation of signals and all that, I thought like, everything can be combined and probably made it as a multi-band. I was just thinking about it, and then this is what it is. I think most of the people were looking for this type of a thing. And recently I was in a presentation in a situation where one of the young ham asked me about our contesting type of environment, and he was questioning about the cost of getting into this type of a thing. And probably the days are here for everyone who has joined, who are youngsters, who are college students, just like Manuel. I was also, or Guido, I was also like challenged in the early days to get into the ham radio, because of the cost restrictions or because of the technology itself. The building blocks in this, whether it is Tayole mixers and signal processing, quadrature sampling areas, or even the output of it is very modular. If you can, you might have seen the presentation already, but they are very modular and well laid out. I think that is very important for the early builders to catch on and improvise on. One thing which I had a question from my side to you both before I hand over to VU3 GLS Sridhar from Bangalore Amateur Radio Club. He is on the call. From my side, I just want to understand one aspect, because you have IQ signal path going into ADCs and of the Atmega. Can it be taken to make a spectral display as well, or is there a thought process in that, giving the output of that?
Well, it's good that you asked this question. We also have been thinking about these scenarios and done some calculations if this would be possible. We don't know yet if this would fit or not. In theory, everything is possible here, but practically, it would quite a challenge to embed it. But it's something that we have in mind to try out. Especially, this would be great to during CW to see stations around you. For SSB, you could also maybe then see some stations working around you. It's
main restriction is that we are limited to audio bandwidth or sampling bandwidth, because that's the true limit here. You can make that visible. That audio spectrum, I think, is 3 kilohertz. Correct me if I'm wrong, Guido.
Yeah, there is the IF is about 5 kilohertz on both sides, so you would, in theory, then be able to see 10 kilohertz around you, which is a few channels, maybe enough for spectrum display.
Okay. Thank you. I will invite VU3 GLS Sridhar. Sridhar, are you on the call? I think I see that you are on. Can you please unmute yourself and talk about your experience in building micro SDX for rest of us?
Yeah. Good evening, Kiran. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Good evening to all. Myself, VU3 GLS and Sridhar, representing Bangalore Amateur Radio Club. First of all, I would like to say thank you to Manuel and Guido for delivering that wonderful micro STX rig as an open design. And in Bangalore Amateur Radio Club, we selected this design to build 100 numbers of micro STX for all over India hams. And when we build 195 numbers have been worked in the first shot, and 5 numbers has to be troubleshooted. So most of the hams in Bangalore are using it, and some of them have covered 3,000 kilometers in CW mode and 1,000 kilometers in SSB and other things. Almost 45 numbers of micro SDX in India are every day are up and running. on a barefoot like 3-watt output. So once again, I would like to say thanks on behalf of Bangalore Amateur Radio Club to the designers of the Micro SDX. Thank you. That's all, Kiran.
Thank you. Very great.
Thank you so much. So glad to hear that. That makes me so proud, really. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sridhar, I was not knowing about that. Being so close here, I have not built it. It's a shame on me. But it is amazing thing, Manuel and Guido, for I think this is the opportunity for all of us to get on this onto this technology. I think the very little thing which can be kept in hands and probably powered with the small power bank. Can be operated at portable locations, can be driven into a used as a driver to the modern LDMOS amplifier, which can take 3 watts and put a kilowatt out. That is also possibilities. So Manuel is already showing that he is already using it in a most competent station, I believe. Is there any other audience have any other questions on this front? Okay, Madhu is raising the hand. Please unmute Madhu, VU to MUD. You can go ahead with your questions.
No, it's not actually a question. It is I'm one of the lucky users of the group build of BARC, Kiran, Manuel and Guido. Explaining about my own experience, I have a Fox Tango 2000 Delta from Yaso as my main radio. After I got this Micro SDX, as usual, we make an audio comparison on the reception. I found it on par with the FT2000D. That is one excellent experience I had. And on the 20-meter SSB with the 3 watts, with my G5RB junior antenna, which we all know is a very basically compromised antenna, I was able to cover about 1,000 kilometers on 3-watt SSB. So this was my personal experience. And we have in our Bangalore group people who have already connected up their computers to this. They have gone on Whisper, they have gone on digital. So a lot of experimentation is already happening on this group build Manuel and Guido. So I just wanted to add on to what Sridhar said. Take it up, Kiran.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's very great to hear this. And I can confirm. Yeah, go ahead, Manuel.
To say that the very same thing, I can confirm that it beats on a frequent basis. It beats the commercial radios in terms of sensitivity, receiver sensitivity, and filter. I really like it.
Yeah, and also the digital SSB, actually, because it's actually highly companded, it sounds still quite okay, but it's also great to punch through the noise, and that allows you also to make relative good far distances with lower power. It's some characteristic that you only have with the digital SSB that you can actually benefit from because you don't need actually always the envelope control in such a case. So yeah.
As far as I know, in QRP stations and commercial QRP stations, you need to buy certain RF clippers in order to have the same. And the Micro SDX does that by default.
Yeah, all the information is hidden in the phase information and not so much anymore in the amplitude. And because you have so much continuous 100% amplitude, if you select that, you have the ability to reach further than in the more analog way. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing thing to hear from the users as well as from the creators and innovators on the same platform. I think I don't have any other questions, Guido, Manuel.
Prasanna is raising his hand.
Okay, Prasanna, are you?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Yes.
So thank you, Hamfest 2021. It has brought very brain-stimulating knowledge and information, and I would like to congratulate Manuel and Guido for their excellent contribution to the ham community. I'm a beginner, not an established ham. So to start with, we always are looking for, a low power or a starter radio. And I think this micro SDX would be the radio I would always be aiming. I had some technical questions that I posted here. So the first thing is, even to the senior hams in India, somewhere I read that we are only permitted with class B. I mean, no digital modulation like class E of the final amplifier is permitted in India. Can you comment onto that? That is one thing. And second thing is, since we are switching, when we are talking about the class E, it's a square wave or digital switching of the MOSFET. It is not in analog form. So what about the harmonic content at the output side? I'm sure that we have got an output low pass filter. That's perfectly fine. But then there's some sort of distortion as compared to the traditional analog modulation. So Manuel or Gid, you can comment onto that. And the senior hams from India can tell me about, clear the doubt about the class E, whether it is permitted or not. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I will start. Probably I cannot tell anything about the legal situation. I'm sorry, but I would be surprised if it would be the case, because that's a technical thing. But regarding the harmonic thing, yes, it is a switching amplifier driven by a square wave. This means by default you would have pretty high sensitivity to creating harmonics, which is the case if you don't tune it right. But the serial resonance class E works also as a pre-filter, and then the pine after that filters the rest of the harmonics wax. So basic, sorry, mix the German word into that. Away is filtering that away. And in fact, the micro SDX, the latest version, I've measured this one through. We are usually second harmonic below -60 dB down. And the worst thing here was -46 dB, which is still below the required minimum. So in practice, if you tune it right, no problems. And just to mention that, on top of that, fun fact about the latest version is it will be like 80% pre-assembled. So even a beginner will have it pretty easy.
Yeah. I can add something to that. So if you look again to the schematic, there are actually two places where the harmonics and spurs are created. It is, of course, the switching element. Well, the solution for that is the low pass filter, of course, to reduce the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth harmonics. We think that we have enough attenuation to so that it is usable within standards of the legal framework in the countries. We have more than 43 or more -45 dB harmonic suppression. Then there's a second portion how you can actually have spurs, and that is through this PWM output from PB2, which is basically the envelope control. So actually, as you say, it is a digital switch, but the digital switch is actually, in some cases, also partially opened in that sense. We move the bias of the FET when needed. That's not purely class E, but it's actually reducing the harmonics, or not the harmonics, the distortions around the signal. And that makes it very well possible to achieve IMD figures that are also within the standard framework. Here you see a test that I did a long time ago. Yep. Here you see a two-tone test at two frequencies. I don't remember which frequencies I used. They were pretty close together. Normally you would see actually here, yeah, you see here a little bit below these spurious components from that two-tone test, and they are all about 40 dB, down here within the frame actually of the signal that you send out, and the opposite sideband rejection here on the left side, it's below the -45 dB range. So also the PWM signal, which is used here at 62 kilohertz, you don't find components back around the signal. But it is important to have these capacitors in place because they filter these PWM signals out, the 10 nano capacitors here together with these resistors. Okay, I hope that answered the question. I will stop sharing again.
Yeah.
I just see another question in the chat. VU3TQP is asking how much power the radio delivers, and that's a QP radio designed around 5 watts. And you can connect external linear PA if you like.
Yeah. So regarding the Class E emissions and any restrictions, I would suggest that to the person who asked to post that question on our VU Hams Google group. I think we will just have to look into it, and probably if anyone else has got a ready answer, you can answer here, but we can take it up in the later part or offline in the group. Any other questions to Guido and Manuel before we wrap up?
Okay, I have a few photos that have been developed by the BRC build group. So I would like to share the screen, Kiran.
Yes, share it, and then yeah, you can.
Is it visible?
Not yet.
Not yet, Madhu.
1 minute, 1 minute. Visible now?
No.
No. You click on share screen and select the picture from whatever that comes up on the screen.
1 minute, 1 minute. Share screen.
Share screen is the green one.
Okay, here I am.
Okay, there you are.
It's come up now?
Yes.
Okay, this is one of the models made by Papa Oscar Papa.
Expand the image. We are seeing the folder. Click on the images, Madhu.
Oh, yes. I remember.
Double click the image, Madhu. Double click the image.
1 minute. Okay, this should be visible.
No.
No, double click on that thumb image, Madhu.
Where?
No, that thumb, this thing, PC, WhatsApp folder. Double click on that image. Double click, that's all.
I double click, this is what is coming up.
I think you are sharing only that Windows Explorer, not the image entire screen, Madhu.
Correct. Share the entire screen, then this is possible. Not only the folder.
Share screen versus share window, I think.
Share window, yeah.
You have to. You are sharing a one window. Instead, share a different window.
1 minute. Let me go back.
Share the entire screen. That's the best. Double click there.
Still not coming up?
No.
Go ahead and.
Yes. I think now it should come up.
Yes.
Okay. This is one of the models designed by Papa Oscar Papa, Old Man Pratap. This has got the portable usage battery compartment, and the speaker built in.
8 ohms to watts. Does this work without PA?
No, I think he's using a LM386 or a similar audio amplifier inside.
Great.
This is the assembled one with here you can see the BMS built-in battery charger with the controller.
Yeah.
And this is another version with a different color without the internal speaker. He has brought out the volume control on-off switch here, and the microphone. It's a parallel port from what is in the rear. So CW can go at the back, microphone come at the front. So this is the box for that particular model. And he's also made a solar panel assembly for charging the batteries, lithium-ion batteries, which can be placed on top of the box there.
Yeah,
so there was one more picture that I would like to show you. It was made by VU2. Where is that?
The time now is
yes, 2 minutes. Just 2 minutes, Shankar. Okay, this is you're able to see?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is VU3 Tango Yankee Golf, old man Nitin, who is also in Bangalore. He's actually made it out of a bread box itself. This is one of the innovative cases that is made for portable use.
Yeah.
So these were a few things that we wanted to share from our Bangalore group. Go ahead, Kiran.
Okay, thank you, Madhu, for sharing. I think Manuel and Guido are made be very proud of their designs getting implemented, and it's not just implementing it, but it is also putting them on air whenever they're having. That is what the real spirit is about. We are not just hungry for the shoulder smoke, but also to speak to other, make more friends, and spread the joy of operating as well. So that is all about this, and I would like to thank both of you for sharing your design, and you have seen already the impact in Indian hams, and more hams will come up with improvements or utilizing this, and I hope they will also enjoy the operating with this type of radio in near future. Thank you very much from my side. I will hand over to Shankar or any other organizer. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Kiran. Thanks very much for moderating this session. Well, I really don't know how to thank both of them, for coming online and talking to us, Manuel and Guido. Really thank for you. And the last 2 years or the last 3 years have seen quite a lot of disruptions happening at various fields, good, bad, and ugly, all of them are there. The good part of it is that we as amateur radios have been seeing some wonderful work being done all across the world. As I said, Farhan is doing his excellent work in Hyderabad, here itself in the VU land. Quite a lot of work. Yesterday we had a session from Jack from the W land, is doing SDT, as what he called software device transceiver. And today we have you both talking about it. I think in one of the blogs you had said what our own Ham had said, this is the best time to be alive for a home brewer and for a ham to be, this is a fantastic time. And we in India, we always had, we continue to have some restrictions on import of radio equipment and things like that. And projects like this kind of size and the cost is something was unimaginable for us, unimaginable about 4 or 5 years ago, getting a HF transceiver for less than $100, for less than 10,000 rupees in India, whatever. This is amazing. Thanks very much, both of you. On behalf of every ham in this country and around the world, we would like to wish you all the best. Please take it forward for the sake of humanity, I would say. I'm a businessman. I would definitely love to tell you, had you made a pitch deck for this project, you would have got already not only a level 1 series, series 2, series B, every kind of funding in this world, you would have got it from anybody here, it says. Right from big companies like Google to GE to IBM, anybody would have funded you for the kind of work that you have done. Amazing work, I should say. You guys are great here. We wish you all the best, and we hope to be in touch with you, the Indian hams, and you be in touch with you. Whatever little support that you need from us as the Indian hams, in whatever way, developing a prototype, working on it, test results, whatever it is, we are more than happy to be associated with you. Please give us some intellectual work, I should say. And believe me, the entire country, we have some amazing brains who have worked on your project itself. They have worked amazingly well. They have come up with quite a lot of interesting stuff, small variations in that. So on behalf of the Hamfest India Organizing Committee, on behalf of the 100 Years of Amateur Radio Committee, gentlemen, both of you, thanks very much. Thanks to Kiran also, we to X-Ray Echo. Kiran, thanks, man. Thanks for coming to our rescue, I would say. Perhaps I wouldn't have moderated the kind of technicalities that's been involved in the coding, the GitHub, the microcontrollers. I wouldn't have been comfortable. Thanks, Kiran, for that. So on behalf of everyone, both of you, we will be in touch with you. I'll be in touch with you. We'll mail you both. And since this is a physical this thing, I don't have anything as a token of appreciation to hand over to you. But certainly all the good words, we will see how we can take this forward. And certainly as a group, we will be in touch with you. Once again, thanks very much. And on behalf of all of you, thank you very much and all the best, and look forward for many more.
Thanks for having us. And it was really such an honor to be with you. And thank you, especially Kiran for the moderation and Shankar for the invitation. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening to our story, and would be great to work together with you again in the coming times.
Okay, so thanks very much there. Thanks, Kiran, once again. Okay, so we come to the last session before we wind up the 2-day event. And this last session is that there's one presentation from our fellow ham, Dr. Kailash Gupta. So he's there, VU2 Kilo India Zulu. Kilo India Zulu, Dr. Kailash Gupta is there. He has been doing some very pioneering work in disaster management, both in India and in the US. And as a token of our appreciation for his good work, we, the organizing committee, has given him about 15 minutes of time to present his thought on this disaster management. Dr. Kailash Gupta, it's all yours.
Can you allow me to share the screen, please? Thanks.
Allow me to do that. I think you can share the screen.
Yeah, I'm clicking, but host disabled participant screening sharing.
No.
Okay, Karthik, you'll have to make him the co-host.
That I'll do that. I'll do that. One second. Okay. Give it a try now, Doctor.
Yeah, okay. Now I can do 1 minute. Just okay, and slideshow. Okay, can you see my screen? Sorry.
Yeah. Definitely. Go ahead.
Okay, this is Victor Uniform 2 Kilo India Zulu CQ. Please give me video and audio copy report. Hello, can you give me how?
9 plus. Go ahead.
Oh wow. Okay, thank you. So my project is about reducing Indian disaster fatality by awareness to establish ham club stations within district EOCs. So this is a CDRI Fellowship 2021-22 1-year project team. So I'm Dr. Kailash Gupta. I'm Victor Uniform 2 Kilo India Zulu and Kilo Golf 6 Sierra Quebec Romeo. I'm the fellow of CDRI Fellowship, and I'm also managing trustee of the International Emergency Management Society India chapter. In our team, we have got Sandeep Barua, who most of you may be knowing. He is Victor Uniform 2, Mike Uniform Eco. He is a team member. He is also scientist staff in Vigyan Prasar of the Ministry of Science and Technology of Government of India, and he is also a participant. He is there in the group now. Then we have Kathleen Workers. She is a software listener and she is an intern. She is a student of Master of Public Health, University of Minnesota, USA. Then we have Professor Dharmendra Bhulchandani. Who is also in the currently in this webinar. He is a mentor of this fellowship, and he is a professor of Electronics and Communication Engineering Department at the Malviya National Institute of Technology, Jaipur. And incidentally, my permanent QTH is Jaipur. Currently, I am in Bangalore, where most of the participants are there. So I'm here for about 2 weeks. The purpose of this presentation is seeking your help in creating awareness to establish ham club stations within district EOCs. That is number one. Number two is to persuade WPC to allow ham club stations within district EOCs with incumbent collector or district magistrate, some states call that, or their nominee as custodian, without radio communication rights, unless the custodian is a ham. This is like urban fire hydrant system. Like in Bangalore or other cities, we have got fire hydrant systems in the roads, but they are used only by the professional firefighters. No, citizens don't, play with them. So similarly, the idea is that amateur radio stations should be established in all the districts, and only authorized ham operators, licensed operators will be able to use that. The third purpose is to persuade government to invest in creating disaster resilient infrastructure of amateur radio stations within district EOCs. The government should establish amateur radio stations in all the district EOCs. That is the idea. And the last purpose is to identify a collector or collectors who are also hams, and they may champion our cause. So this is the purpose of the presentation. What is CDRI? CDRI is a coalition of disaster resilient infrastructure. It is initiated by the government of India in 2019, and it has been joined by 26 governments, which includes US, UK, Italy, and many other countries, and 7 international organizations, which include UN, European Commission, World Bank, Asian Development Bank, etc. Now, CDRI last year invited innovative and actionable 1-year disaster resilient infrastructure research proposals. I also submitted one of them, and CDRI received 143 applications from member countries. Those 26 governments who have joined, their citizens could have only applied. And out of that 140 applications, they selected me as one of the first cohort CDRI fellow. This is 1 year, and now we are almost in the middle of that year. So, disaster fatality. More than 90% of fatalities following disasters, they occur in developing countries. This has been proved by the research. And there's the most renowned disaster management database is EMDAT, which has recorded more than 9,091 lakh fatalities since 1900 in India. And HSBS Global Research has ranked India as most vulnerable to climate change. That was a research in 2018. And India has got the dubious distinction of maximum of almost all types of fatalities by all types of hazards, whether it is a Bhopal chemical disaster, mid-air air class, and floods, earthquakes, whatever it is. And actually, there is not a big space to put our shame on the fire for all these, fatalities. Okay, so the research, this is a research project, and the intended impact of the research is to minimize the disaster mortality. That is the whole purpose, that this is what we expect to have the impact. And our output of the research will be a white paper. That is white paper means policy related, to persuade WPC for policy change, allowing establishing HAM club stations within district EOCs with collector or nominee as custodian of HAM club station without communication right, unless the collector is also a license holder. If the government establishes HAM club stations in district EOCs, HAM can maintain fail-proof emergency communication. We are all aware that when disaster occurs, we are asked to come there, or we go voluntarily, and it takes time to pick up our radio antenna, go establish, set up antenna, and then the time is lost. And during disaster, every second means life and death. So if there are already HAM club stations are there with antenna, everything, we have to just go and start using, which is a practice in US and some other developed countries. And another research have shown that only 3.6% of the worldwide aid goes for disaster prevention preparedness. India and most of the countries, after the disaster, they are willing to spend thousands and thousands of crores of rupees or dollars or euros after disaster. Like even the pandemic we are saying, but not in preparedness. This is the irony. So now we have been doing this research for the last 6 months. So provisional key findings are that if HAM club stations within district EOCs are established, HAM will go quickly restore communication and save lives. Under the Disaster Management Act 2005, it is mandatory that each, at the national level, at a state level, and each district level, there should be a emergency operations center, EOC, fully equipped with computer, antenna, radio, and all sort of wireless and all sort of things. And fully, it should be round the clock, full year. There should be people who are, training or documenting or ready. The civil defense and others. But most of the places, I think it is not there. Also, one of the finding is that if an equipment, we need only equipment of only about 3 million or about 22 crore rupees required to establish simple HAM club stations within all the 739 Indian district EOCs, which will give maximum social benefit return compared to any other disaster resilient infrastructure. Now, the key challenges in this and the provisional solutions are that that the one challenge is policy change by WPC allowing ham club station within district UOCs with incumbent collector or their nominee as custodian without radio communication rights, unless the custodian is a ham, is itself is a policy change itself is a big challenge. Our solution is advocacy. With the we will write a white paper which is in the process, which will give all the their security impressions, advantage, disadvantage, and scientific references and all sort of things. So this white paper we are writing, so that is hopefully it may change the thinking. Yesterday, in this Hamfest India 2021, our old man Gopal Madhavan, Victor Uniform 2 Golf Mike Nancy, he spoke about the challenge of equipment being stolen. Some places antennas were put up, radio was put up, they were stolen and all those things. So our provisional solution is that amateur radio station set up within district UOCs, if they are set up within district UOCs, the government facility by governments, that has other equipment and permanent government staff and used for normal days during training and other purposes throughout the year. Only disaster, our ham club training, meeting and experimentation, only disaster, then we go and use. Then it will be safe and secure also. This is one solution. Another problem is establishment of ham club stations within district UOCs. The solution is identify a collector who is a ham to champion the cause. And another problem is funding. But the government should fund, 22 crore for the whole of country, or maybe even 50 crore for the whole of country for set up amateur radio station in advance, pre-install. Is a what do you call a small amount. Okay, the questions. Before I ask open to questions, just I am saying to reduce disaster fatality by you. I want you to become a research participant. You can write on to me at this address, or you can call anytime. But before I ask open for questions, I know Sandeep is there, and Professor Bulchandani is there. So I request Shankar to allow them to, say something that will be interesting. Over to you, Shankar.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They can, Mr. Okay. If you can stop screen sharing.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. So that's why I'm trying to figure out. Stop. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. You want?
I want first. Sandeep is there. So I want Sandeep.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Good afternoon to all. Thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity. I really appreciate Dr. Gupta's effort to set up the amateur radio clubs within governmental establishment premises. Of course, there may be some confusion or contradiction about it. Definitely, the contradiction is that amateur radio is a hobby, and when we go for setting up, we have the experience actually. So if it is fully governmentalized, institutionalized, then it becomes some kind of like governmental communication system, but ham radio is not that. So that contradiction is already there. So my take on this is that these clubs, of course, if we look in a positive way, these clubs should be actually not maybe a part of the emergency operation center, but they should be actually resource come felicitation center. Resource come felicitation center where the local hams and the local hams who might not have the resources or access to radio communication equipments. So they can actually come to those clubs, because those IAS officials or IPS officials, they would not be able to devote their time, even if having a license, radio communication license, would not able to devote his or her time to those systems. So these clubs actually should be fully functional throughout the year, day in, day out, 24/7, which can be voluntarily manned by the local radio amateurs in those district headquarters. So that would be a very positive effort, I think, because the local students, even the engineering students, if we make those clubs the resource cum felicitation center with libraries of books, technical books, and communication equipments, so we can make it very popular among the local people actually. So in this, if we look in that direction, then Dr. Gupta's idea is definitely, I appreciate that idea. And yeah, he is right. It's a peanut for the government to invest some little amount of money. And we know so far as the resource and money is concerned, we are not like the developed countries like in USA, American Radio Relay League is working like a governmental organization. It's not like an NGO. It's a full-fledged organization, because Amateur Radio Society of India has the resource crunch. They don't have enough money to actually make it like the ARRL. So that is the practical problem that we have in countries like India. So with that, I would like to appreciate Dr. Kailash Gupta's effort, and definitely my support would be there at what level I can do. Of course, it should be a hobby, educational, do-it-yourself activity. Not only emphasizing on only emergency operation, it is not our intention. It is to train the people, students, for technical experimentation. So thank you very much. 73, this is a Victor uniform to Mike uniform echo.
Shankar, can you request, can you allow Professor Gulchandani also to speak a few words if he may like? He's there on the...
Certainly. Mr. Gulchandani, you're there?
Yeah, sir. Good evening to everyone.
Sir, your video is required. Your photo...
One second. I'm looking at him first.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Yes, sir.
No, I agree with Sudhi Ghosh that, yeah, this should come up as a hobby. And I also find in our institute also many students are interested in managing such ham clubs and amateur radios club. And let us not make it a governmental activity purely, but as a hobby to engineering students. And to start with, we have engineering colleges in most of the major cities where these clubs could be established. And in CDRI fellowship, it is proposed to establish a ham club at our institute, MNIT. And Dr. Kailash Gupta is also working for that. Let's see how it comes up. And we are hopeful that it would come and would be popular among our students, because with the advent of mobile communication, this ham club has lost its popularity, what it used to be in previous days, that is amateur radio and ham. So let us try to develop this and make them popular. And let's see that this project comes out successfully.
Okay, Shankar, you can open for question answer, or suggestions, and people want to join the team or help in the project.
Yeah. Any questions to Dr. Kailash Gupta and on this project? The clubs or individuals who would like to ask questions, you can just go ahead. Any questions? Anybody want to know anything about disaster management and the project Dr. Kailash is doing? Yeah. Anybody here?
We will invite any interested ham to join our research team, if they can contribute and devote some time.
SWL Neil has raised his hand.
If I may.
Go ahead, Neil.
can we set up something like the Amateur Radio Emergency Data Network in India?
Well, I think ARSE has already got ARES set up, and I think Ramesh is there in this. Probably he was earlier there. He may reply better. He's the president of the ARSI.
Roger.
Yesterday he replied, yeah, it is already there. There are volunteer amateur radio operators who are members of ARSI. There is a separate group already, ARES, and they meet monthly. I mean, not every month. And they are on Wednesday there is going to be a meeting of the new committee, which will decide about how to go ahead further about this.
Shankar, am I audible?
Yes, go ahead, Ramesh.
Yes,
you
are audible.
Good evening, Shankar. Good evening, the whole team. And good evening to Dr. Shairash Gupta and also Sandeep Barua and also Mr. Dharmender Bulchandani. So I think the question asked by one of the audience, I think he meant some data network. So what kind of data network he means, I'm not very sure. But yes, we have a dedicated group called Amateur Radio Emergency Communication, which is a body under Amateur Radio Society of India, which has been formed about 2 years back. This was formed following the general body meeting of the 2019, and well, there has been not too many activities under this, except for a couple of discussions. Of course, initially there was a national coordinator, followed by the current coordinator Subhash Babu, and just like what Mr. Kailash Gupta, Dr. Kailash Gupta mentioned, we are trying to regroup people, following our next week's committee meeting, and give some life to this. And as I mentioned earlier yesterday during my session, that lot of such emergency communication, the hams are plunging into activity immediately, following any call for such a communication requirement. This is mostly being done by the local clubs, like the Kerala hams, immediately responded to the call during the severe rain a couple of years back. Similarly in Tamil Nadu also, and also in the northeastern region. And very regularly we are having cyclone and heavy rainfall affected areas along the coast of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, which the local hams are actively taking part. The idea under the AREC, which is a wing of Amateur Radio Society of India, is to bring all these local clubs under one banner and coordinate with the governmental agencies, to set up stations, or when such a disaster occurs, such a calamity occurs, we wish the government, looks out for a single agency to respond, which can in turn, activate the regional bodies, and who would be trained hams with the necessary equipment and grab kits. This is all in the thought process, and we have a plan. It's not because everybody is a volunteer, and each of the members who have volunteered have their own preoccupations, and they're working and students and things like that. It's become not really easy for us to group them and train them, though there has been a lot of activity for such trainings happening among the Pune hams and also in Kerala, etc. Still, we are trying our best. I think in the coming months, we should probably set out in a positive direction and take the suggestions of Dr. Kailash Gupta regarding this. But in my opinion, setting up governmental agencies and having the IS and IPS officers as hams or custodians will sort of dilute the hobby here, because the radio amateur is a true volunteer who, with his own will, volunteers with his own communication equipment. But the idea of having funding such such equipment or such equipment for the clubs, of course, is a welcome idea, because most of the clubs here, or most of the associations, regional associations here, they meet regularly and they have a lot of activity, but they will lack the resource of a proper office or an accommodation and a ham station, which is definitely welcome. And maybe there are some ideas which have to be modified and changed, not diluting the true spirit of ham radio here. That is my sincere opinion. Thank you very much. Back to the organizers.
Yeah, I think yeah, Sankarji, can I add something? Respond. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Rameshji, I agree with you, and also our team member Sandeep has also said it has to be hobby. The purpose of suggesting collector as a custodian is for the, if they invest, the equipment is there, to the limited purpose that security etc. is maintained. Only only licensed operators will be allowed to operate. I gave the analogy of fire hydrant system in cities, where hydrants are there all around throughout the city. But we citizens don't fiddle with that. When fire is there, firemen go there and they operate. Same is the suggestion.
Yes. Okay. I agree with you, Dr. Kailash. I certainly agree with you. In fact, our local club, though I'm involved with ARSI from 2008, I've been part and parcel of the local club, Bangalore Amateur Radio Club, from 1994, where till today we are struggling to have a permanent station, permanent location where we can meet. Every month we meet under the head of the Bharat Scouts and Guides, but still we do not have a permanent club station. So certainly these ideas are welcome, and how we implement it and how we ask the government, is also very important, Dr. Kailash. Thank you very much.
Certainly, Ramesh. ARSI absolutely in Bangalore doing a pioneering work. And Dr. Kailash Gupta ji, after looking at your presentation, we are very impressed with the whole thing. As Ramesh said, there are many areas that we should all work together and make it happen, and lobby the government and WPC to come up with a policy that would help us. What we will do is we will certainly keep this discussion going, as with any other thing that we had today.
Because as Sandeep Barua says it, 50 crores for the government of India to fund ham radio stations is a peanuts, and certainly they should do it under any head, whether they do it under the disaster management head or youth or the cultural, whatever. There are many ministries under which heading they do it is it's immaterial, but definitely ham radio, the development of ham radio in a country is directly proportional to the development of the technical temperament, which you see in a small country like Japan. We have 1 million hams, active hams. Unlike India, we have 1 million hams, and in Indonesia we have around 40,000 hams, where there is almost a continuous disaster. Earthquakes are very common in Indonesia, so it is definitely a welcome move. And how we take it ahead, under the leadership, under the leadership and notions of different ideas, like how Dr. Kailash Gupta says, or many other. Sandeep Barua himself is part of the government organization who is doing continuous work for the last 20 years, as I have seen. So definitely these moves are welcome, and we should join hands and put these ideas together, and definitely we should take this side. Thank you so much.
I'm pretty sure Ramesh and ARSI, Dr. G will be in touch with you, and we as Hams in Mysore will support him, 100% supportive of any of these initiatives, any of this ARSI does. So I'm sure you can be in touch with Lima United, Ramesh, ARSI, and certainly we will take this discussion forward and see that it reaches its logical conclusion in the year 2022.
Somebody has raised, I'm light member of the ARSI, so it's okay. Somebody has raised some hand. He wants to ask some questions, Sankarji.
Anybody else? Any other questions?
This is VU3 Tango Bravo Romeo from Chennai. My name is Bala. I have seen in other parts of the world there are special channels dedicated like a citizen band and family radio service like that, walkie-talkie. So now I see that many Doordarshan, the broadcast also they are closing down a couple of them. So can we not use those sort of band modify for this emergency purpose? The strong
I think we have already have what is known as community radio service. I think most of the people must be aware. The community radio service is, it's licensed service, giving service to specific communities. I think this can be taken offline because it doesn't broadly come under ham radio, and any information regarding this can be discussed. There is community radio, which is, if people are not interested in regular broadcasting service, there is community radio which is serving small pockets of communities for a dedicated purpose.
Yeah, I think Kuldeep Bharadwaj has a question. Quickly, go ahead, sir. Mr. Kuldeep Bharadwaj, can you unmute and Kuldeep Bharadwaj? Okay, Neelakandan.
Yeah, good evening to all of you. This is VU3 Bravo Golf Kilo, Neil from Tamil Nadu. Our Kailash put it, training of collectors, 700 and odd collectors throughout India, it's a very huge task, and collectors are changing every now and then. IAS officers are changing from one department to another department. So permanent custodian and the hands of collector is not a very good idea. Instead of that, ham in the residents of in that particular district will allow to be a custodian, changing the rule of amateur radio operations. That will be a welcoming one. Other than that, the district collector as a custodian will not be helpful, because every now and then collectors will change and IAS officer change every now and then. That is my point.
Okay, very well taken. I'm sure Mr. Kuldeep, Mr. Kailash Gupta will, anyway, the persons might change, the position will continue. Nevertheless,
Shankarji, my reply is the idea is the incumbent collector or his nominee to be custodian for the namesake. Incumbent, not the person who is holding the post and or his nominee. He is very busy person, so he can nominate somebody. That's the idea.
Security of the.
I think Shankar, I can add a couple of lines to this. Can I go ahead?
Quickly.
Yes, Shankar. See, training IAS officer or an IPS officer to be a ham may not be a great idea, because they may not, unless they have their own interest, they may not pursue it. But during the training, like how Bangalore Amateur Radio Club has a couple of instances come to Mysuru in the administrative training center where the IPS and IAS officers pass out. We have given demonstration sessions and presentations regarding ham radio. So such awareness programs will help the ham community in the long run, so that these IAS officers are aware of ham radio. Otherwise, they will never be aware. So if a person is walking around with a walkie-talkie, or a person who is involving in a disaster communication, in most of the cases, situations, the administrative officers will not be aware of existence of hams. So if there is some awareness created during the training, in the IAS training or IPS training, where the training centers are there, if the local hams can give a demonstration like in Mysuru, I think they will have that idea that there is something as ham radio, and these people are available in times of emergency, and this is a hobby, and they are licensed people to carry on with wireless transmissions and things like that. So that idea is definitely welcome, and centers where there are administrative training units can be approached for such awareness program at least once a year. Where we can also coordinate. This is just my
no, perfectly right.
Yes.
What I say is, Dr. G, is there a requirement? Yes. Do we need to work on a strategy? Yes. How we do it and the operational part of it, we can certainly take this offline, work on it, and ARSI can join hands with you, and we can join hands with you, petition the government, petition the WPC, lobby, and I'm pretty sure we can take this forward. But is that a requirement? Absolutely, yes. There is a requirement.
Sankarji, I want to reply that this is not, the idea is not to train the collectors. The collectors are trained in Administrative Institute, Mysuru. There is an amateur radio station also there in the Mysuru. They are trained initially, and afterwards also they are given some training. But then they forget, or they are not in touch. And I met one collector. I have written a lot of letters, and I met a collector whom I suggested to set up an amateur radio station in EOC. His reply was, I don't want to name, that there is already All India radio station. What is the need of an amateur radio station? So that to that extent, ignorance is there, and this is our job to educate them.
I think Kuldeep Bharadwaj has a question. Quickly, Kuldeep. You can unmute and talk. Mr. Kuldeep Bharadwaj.
November Whiskey, Victor uniform to November Whiskey.
Yeah, go ahead, November Whiskey. Victor uniform to November Whiskey.
Hotel Whiskey is also there.
Hotel Whiskey. Quickly, can you go ahead, anyone? Hotel Whiskey.
Yeah, good evening. I know the time is running short. A very short instance to add on, and Sandeep must be aware of it. We have done such program in association with Delhi's Civil Defense and the district magistrate involved with the IS in a mega district disaster relief, mega district. It was a emergency communication. It was done in 2009, yes. And Delhi police, Delhi fire station.
It is not in 2009. It is very recently. I think 2018.
2019. 2019.
Yes.
Delhi police wireless communication, the satellite communication, the Delhi fire wireless system, and ham radio. All were there working simultaneously. And we did a full day project for that, and it was much more appreciated that among all the 4 communication, only the ham radio operators were able to do the communication frequently, and most reliable communication was given to ham radio. Absolutely. We have a certificate for that.
I know.
And Sandeep was also a part of that. If Sandeep was there, I remember that. So
I would like to just give my feedback on this is that I was at East District, Rajni. So the IAS official, he was very impressed by my communication, and you were at the police headquarters, I think, the main control room. So his impression was very good, but his idea about ham radio was, he was totally ignorant. He said, okay, we'll buy these ham radios and tomorrow we'll set up. So I had to explain a lot to him. So it happens like that. Okay, no problem. We have the money. We'll buy the ham radio, and from tomorrow we'll use it. So
anyway,
it was
that's right. I think Kuldeep is trying quite hard. I want to somehow give him a chance. Kuldeep Bharadwaj. Can you go ahead, Kuldeep Bharadwaj? You have been raising hand. Please unmute. Please unmute and speak, please. Please unmute, Kuldeep Bharadwaj.
Due to November Whiskey, you are not you have not unmuted that, Kuldeep ji. Unmute your microphone.
Yeah, Kuldeep ji, please unmute. Okay. Anyway, I'm sure we will have many more occasions like this to both of you, Dr. Kailash ji. And really thankful that you reached out to us and spoke to us and wanted to make this presentation. And we thought it's a social issue, very much required. We really appreciate your concern and your work that you have been doing. So thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate you. And certainly there will be occasions for us to work together. ARSI is already there, and there are At the local level, many organizations are working, not only in India, in Bangalore, Mysore, or in Delhi. It could be in Tamil Nadu, it could be in Maharashtra, it could be in Gujarat. There are a lot of clubs I know in Calcutta and Orissa, Andhra Pradesh, who are working pretty heavily on this segment. We will try and gather all of them and see to it that we will take this forward. If possible, not able to unmute is what Kuldeep says. I don't know why. I don't know why. Kuldeep not able to unmute. Can you unmute now? No, yeah. I'm extremely sorry. I'm extremely sorry, Kuldeep. I'm extremely sorry for that. Looks like there is some issue there. Anyway, thanks very much. I'm sure you will have another occasion on your WhatsApp or Telegram group. I'm sure you can talk to Dr. Kailash ji and the other clubs and get to know more about it. Thank you. So on behalf of the organizing committee of the Hamfest India 2021, I really thank Dr. Kailash Gupta and Dr. Sandeep for having come, and the other Ham for having come and given us a talk on a very, very important aspect of amateur radio of social concern. So thank you very much, sir, on all of our behalf. We will take this forward, certainly offline. There will be many more interactions between us, and we hope you will talk to all the clubs across the country, bring them all together on a common platform and take this forward. So thank you very much. Have a great evening. So we will come to the last event of the point of the event, the vote of thanks, I should say. Just very, very critical. And I'm sure all of you are seeing the screen. So Hamfest India 2021, 100 years of amateur radio. So first, before I begin anything, firstly, I should thank Jim here. To JIM, Jim has to be thanked here for it. If he's there, thank you very much, Jim. If he's not there, please convey this to him. But for Jim, I think Mysuru wouldn't have taken it forward. Of course, we had our idea, but Jim was all the more helpful in many things to take up the Hamfest 2021 to Mysore. And when we took up the Hamfest 2021 to Mysore, the second wave wasn't there. The first wave was ending and the second wave hadn't come yet. So we were confident of doing it in this very 2 days, yesterday and today. We were having a physical meet. We had already booked the auditorium, the whole lot of things. The website was ready. The whole thing was ready. But unfortunately, in February, the second wave came up, and it was a very big disaster. And all of us went through quite a bit of issues, which we all know across the world. So that is when we also spoke to Jim and said, what do we do? Then we said, we should do something, not because of the Hamfest India. Yes, we certainly need to do, but because it is 100 years of amateur radio in India. That is more critical. So all of us in Mysore came up and said, no, yes, we have to do something for 100 years of amateur radio in India. So it is with that, all of us sat and discussed various topics. One of the topics that certainly came up was 100 years, have a sort of a chat, freewheeling chat within two people, old timers who can speak quite a lot about it. That's why we to Tango Sierra and we to Golf Mike November, Gopal Madhavan and Ganesh speak on 100 years of amateur radio. And beyond that, SDR, satellite, micro BTEX, micro SDS, everything is becoming a big thing today. And we thought we should have the persons who have really done it, or the people who have really done it. We did try to connect with Farhan to come and speak to us about his amazing home brewing and amazing project. We were in touch with the Hyderabad, the club also. We tried to reach him, but unfortunately we couldn't get him online and fix up a time to have this session. But nevertheless, we appreciate on this platform the good work of home brewing and the kind of work that's happening with Farhan and the Hyderabad club, we really appreciate you. Then we said then we should get the two people, DL2 MAN and P1 NNZ, and Jack and Alistair. So we called him. They were so gracious enough to be part of this and came up with it. Obviously, not to forget the ARSI, which has all along been with us, and we did. So let's our sincere appreciation and thanks to the speaker, Jack W8 TEE Albert from the US, and Albert from US, Manuel DL2 MAN from Germany, Girio PE1 NNZ from Netherlands, Ganesh V2 Tango Sierra, Gopal Madhavan V2 GMN, and Dr. Kailash Gupta just now and his team V2 KIZ for giving us a wonderful and a very appreciative talk and a much needed talk on amateur radio in disaster management. I would sincerely thank two of my moderators, Manoj V2 Charlie Papa Lima, yesterday, who did a marvelous job moderating with Jack and Albert, and today Kiran V2 X-ray Echo, who did an equally marvelous job moderating with Manuel and Gideon. And it would be wrong on my part not to thank my morning QTH, Excelsoft, for sponsoring this platform Zoom, a corporate account platform Zoom, and Karthik, my dear colleague at Excelsoft, who has been with me for 2 days, literally helping me out, streaming it on YouTube and helping me on the Zoom platform. My sincere and appreciation thank personally, thanks to ARSI, to Ramesh, Lima United. Ramesh, thanks very much, Ramesh, for all the support and help. Madhu has been there with me, all of them. We have to MUD, Jim, to JIM, Sarau, we have to Echo Tango Sierra. Surya has been there with us 2 years, 2 days, U3, F and W, helping us and appreciating. Kesri, yes, we have to Mike, Tango Kilo, and Ramas, we have to SMX. All of you have been great support and help to me. Going further, I would also stick my head out and say we had planned a memento for 100 years of amateur radio, but due to the COVID and other things and logistics, we couldn't come up with that. We certainly have that idea, and we will certainly take this forward to its logical conclusion. We will certainly come up with a memento for 100 years of amateur radio. We'll be in touch with you. Appreciation and thanks to all the custodians of repeaters in India. We sent out mails to them, very encouraging response from each one of them. They came up with some good ideas and encouraging this thing. Sarau, thanks for moderating that show. And we will certainly take all this forward, not to end it here. We'll certainly take the disaster management, we'll take the connecting the repeaters, support ARSI for and BARC, Bangalore Amateur Radio Club, for building that the newer radios that are coming up on the horizon, both from the WLAN and from Germany and Netherlands. So I should really thank each one of you. And finally, I would like to say the the Hamfest organizing committee here have also planned a physical event. Sometime in April and May. We will come up with more details of that and how we want to do it. There is some plans to do it quite differently. We'll certainly share that idea, get your feedback, and see to it that we really meet in person, talk to each other, hug to each other, eyeball, and have a thrift market and takeaways and goodies and everything. And I'm sure we will also involve the family, our XYLs and harmonics also in this thing. So we have planned of it. We'll come back with more details on that. So with every ham here, I should really thank you on behalf of the Hamfest organizing committee, who are there for 2 days, who registered with us, who gave us a lot of inputs. To each one of you hams across the country and around the world, I should really thank. Before I end, I would request my friend Madhu, if I've forgotten anybody, And should we thank somebody or anything else you would like to add? Madhu, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you, Shankar. Yes, we would also like to thank V2 Hotel W, Hotel Whiskey, Rajini Mohan, who coordinated incessantly with the WPC officials in getting the WPC Assistant Wireless Advisor, Mr. Omkarnath ji, to inaugurate this session. In fact, he was also in touch with the Senior Deputy Wireless Advisor, Srimati Revati, to attend this. She was also very keen, and there were quite a few inputs from her also. But unfortunately, due to official commitments, she could not participate physically. And we have been sending the inputs to her and her team also. And she has made a particular repeated request for us to announce that all hams are requested to register on the Saral Sanchar portal, because WPC itself is in the process of updating their database, which will go a long way. With these new registrations, the WPC will be able to capture the latest current information, and like Mr. Omkarnath mentioned yesterday, lot of streamlining, easing of processes and other things are being planned and being put into place. So personal request from Srimati Revati, Senior Deputy Wireless Advisor, for all amateur radio operators to register on the Saral Sanchar portal. Yesterday there were a few inputs saying that certain issues were there. That has already been conveyed back to them. They are in the process of getting these things sorted out, and if we get any information, we will certainly pass it on to them for rectification and correction. So thank you, Shankar. You can continue.
Yeah, thanks very much, Madhu. My sincere apologies to Rajini Mohan for all the support. I don't know, it was there on my sheet here. His name was on the top, but somehow while making the PPT just now, I somehow missed anywhere. So once again, to all the hams all across the country and to all our speakers and supporters, thank you very much. Have a great and a safe evening. Have a great contacts. Have a great DX. Have a great contests, and we'll see all of you in eyeball during April, May in Mysuru. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you all.